Hello and welcome. This is one of the most exciting updates I've been able to do in a long time. We have some huge news regarding the $1,000 to $10,000 grant program. So I'm going to cover the news first thing in this video and then go over some frequently asked questions later on in the video. So hopefully you can get all the information that you need and then land an extra $1,000 to $10,000 in your bank account. And before I get into this, if you could please consider hitting the like button. I promise this is going to be a quality video and will be super helpful. I know it's cliche for YouTubers to ask, but it really does help out the algorithm and pushes this content to a wider audience. And I would appreciate it very much. All right, let's get on to the news. The EIDL grant, which for several weeks has only been open for agricultural businesses, has reopened officially to all small businesses. And by all small businesses, I mean all. The crazy part about this program is there really isn't a minimum size requirement. Even if you have something like a side gig selling things on eBay part-time, or maybe you drive Uber part-time, you can apply for this grant and you will receive $1,000. The biggest benefactors of this program are those who have employees though. This is because the SBA decided that they would scale payments to $1,000 per employee, with you counting as an employee if you're a self-employed individual. So for example, if you have 7 employees, you'll be eligible for $7,000. The strange part about this program is, as of the making of this video, there is no proof required to receive the EIDL funds. All you need to do is fill out the 5-minute application. Literally, it's so fast to fill out, and have some kind of small business, and you'll receive what is basically a $1,000 stimulus check, up to $10,000 if you have employees, but I know most people don't with their small businesses. So far, there is no proof you need to submit for what you spend the $1,000 on. However, there are guidelines as to what it's supposed to be used for. The guidelines, or the items it's supposed to be used for, are payroll, which counts as earnings if you are self-employed or you're 1099 contractor. Earnings count as payroll in this case. Providing paid leave to employees. Matching increased costs to obtain materials. Now this one is kind of vague. Technically, it's supposed to be allocated for increased costs or disruptions in supply chains due to the pandemic. However, this itself would be tough to prove, and I could see a lot of scenarios where other things could fit into that definition. The next item is rent or mortgage payments, supposed to be for your business. And then the next one is other payments that cannot be met due to revenue loss. Again, this one is quite vague as well and could apply to a ton of situations. One could argue that because, for example, let's say your eBay sales are down 40%, and those earnings would normally allow you to purchase the new computer that you need, so now you need to use your $1,000 EIDL grant to pay for it. Or let's say normally your Uber earnings would allow you to pay for a repair on your car, but because rides are down, you have to use that $1,000 grant to pay for the repairs. I mean, you could think of thousands of scenarios where something similar could be argued as to what these funds could be used on. What I'm trying to get at is it's very open as to what you could spend this grant on if proof were ever to be required. Because again, it looks like there probably won't ever be any proof that's required. And I'm always skeptical whenever things seem too good to be true, and receiving $1,000 with no proof required definitely falls into that camp of seeming too good to be true. However, when I look at the facts, I feel a little bit more comfortable about it, so why not I let you feel a bit more comfortable about it and go over some of the facts. First, this program has been around for more than 2 months, and there never has been a single mention of requiring proof or receipts for the grant portion. The loan portion is different, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's just been no mention of proof from the SBA, from Congress, or from the Treasury. I would assume that they would have said something if they were going to require proof. It's already been months. They would have probably said something. They've done so with the Paycheck Protection Program. We already know all this proof is required. It kind of makes sense that they would have already told us. And then secondly, there's been more than 5 million grants given out already. So this is a legit program. People have received money. I've personally received money. It's real. But to take the time and the effort and the expense to vet out all those grants, That would be a monumental task, and we already know that the SBA, let's face it, isn't the greatest at logistics. So that's another added level of difficulty. But it would cost literally billions of dollars to audit all of those existing grants, and then not to mention all of the additional people like you who are going to apply for this now that it's open again. If proof were ever to be required, it would likely just be the higher profile, higher risk grants. Something like they could flag the suspicious grants over $7,000 and request them to send over proof. I just don't see the average person getting just $1,000 needing to submit anything. It would just be too tedious. I mean, it would cost so much money to do so. But going back to the loan portion, that portion is different. So while you apply for the grant, you are also technically applying for the EIDL loan. You'll be offered the loan if you receive the grant, which is supposed to be, the loan amount is supposed to be equal to 6 months of your business's expenses at a 3.75% interest rate. The terms on these loans are pretty good, but just make sure you read all the fine print first before you sign anything, because there are a lot of specific rules and regulations with any loan through the SBA. But my point is here that if you receive the loan, you'll need to provide proof of expenses for what that loan is spent on with detailed receipts. The loan, again, could be a great deal for some people, but not everyone wants it. So what if you only want to take the grant and not the loan? How would that work? Well, surprisingly, you actually don't have to take the loan. There's no stipulation saying that you have to actually accept the loan, which means you can take that $1,000 to $10,000 and just peace out. See ya. I personally received the grant for my business and declined the loan because I just went with the Paycheck Protection Program instead. That program just made more sense for my business, but I mean, I'm proof that you don't need to apply for the loan, you can still receive the grant. So now that we've covered all of our bases, let's cover some commonly asked questions. And you might be surprised with some of these answers. Also, if you want to apply for the grant, I'll have the link for the grant in the application. It's handy in my description if you want to check it out. I mean, just fill it out. It takes 5 minutes. You could receive $1,000 if you have a small business. All right, first question. Can I receive both the EIDL grant and PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, that $600 additional unemployment? Now this question, I've seen it a bunch of times, that's why I'm addressing it. It's a bit tricky because there hasn't been specific guidance on this. Normally, and for just about every other government program, double dipping is not allowed, meaning you can't receive two separate benefits for the same thing. Operating under that, it would be tough for someone like an independent contractor to argue that they aren't double dipping by receiving both the EIDL and the PUA. For some context, though, I did find that there is guidance from the Treasury about receiving both the Paycheck Protection Program funding and PUA. And it stated that participation in the Paycheck Protection Program may affect your eligibility for state-administered unemployment compensation or unemployment assistance programs. For that one, it seems like it's kind of either or. You can't receive them both at the same time. However, again, I couldn't find any mention of the EIDL in this exact context. So I don't want to guide people in the wrong way. All I have to say for this is look at the facts and make a decision for yourself on this one. Seems like there's no proof required. However, double dipping isn't usually allowed. So you'll have to make your own choice on that one. Next question. If I mark 0 employees, will I receive $0? So this is in regards to the actual application for the grant itself. As you go through it, you'll notice that it asks for the number of employees you have. And here's the dilemma. If you're self-employed or a gig worker, you don't have any employees, so it's technically 0 employees. But the grant is based off of the number of employees. So does 0 employees mean no grant? Well, thankfully, the SBA figured this one out, and no, that isn't the case. If you mark down 0 employees, you will still receive $1,000. But here's where it gets weird though. If you mark down 1 employee, you will also receive $1,000. So 0 equals 1,000, 1 equals 1,000. So if you have no employees, you count as an employee. But if you have 1 employee, you personally don't count as an employee, that just doesn't make sense to me. So if you have one employee, I would recommend you mark it down as 2 employees, counting yourself as one. It doesn't explicitly say to do this on the application, but it only seems fair that if you count as an employee, you should be eligible for your $1,000, whether you have an additional employee or not. That's just how I'm looking at it, and I haven't seen anything objecting that whatsoever. The next common question I've seen a million times is, can I mark contractors as employees and receive $1,000 for them? For this one, it's been stated in writing that only W-2 employees count as employees in this case. The original application asked for the number of jobs you hire out, and people who filled out this application counted contractors because it just seemed like that would count. However, this is technically incorrect. However, I will say I've heard nothing from the people who marked down 10 contractors and received $10,000, and no proof has been required yet. But I'm not advising anyone to do that, because if that starts happening, they will definitely figure something out to start requiring proof. And I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that, trying to fight my way out of like, oh, I didn't know it counted. Just me personally. The next common question, should I unfreeze my credit when I apply for the grant? So some people have stated that you need your credit unfrozen to receive the grant, but that isn't always the case. I received my grant while never unfreezing my credit. However, I suspect this is because I applied through my business's EIN number. So here's what I would suggest. If you're applying through a business's EIN, you probably don't need to bother messing with your personal credit. You could unfreeze it if you want. I mean, it's free to do, and then you'd be 100% sure, but I didn't have to, and I know of other people who didn't have to. However, if you operate under a social security number, like if you're a contractor or a sole proprietor, I would 100% recommend unfreezing your credit until the application goes through and then just refreezing again afterwards. And then another common question attached to this one is, how do I know if my credit is frozen? Well, you would have had to have done it yourself to freeze it, so you would know. If it is frozen, you can have it unfrozen by either calling or going on the Experian website. For the sake of not making this video too long, I'm going to stop it here with the questions. If you have any additional questions about the grant, leave them below, and if there's enough of them, I'll make another frequently asked questions EIDL grant video. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions down there as people are going through the application. And really, I'm just really excited for anyone who has yet to apply for this, because this is, like I said, pretty much another stimulus check, and at least it's a guaranteed another stimulus check if you own any kind of small business. If you apply and get it, let me know, because I'm really curious about the time frame now. Supposedly, everyone who applied previously has either got their decision or received their grant, so I'll be really curious to see how quickly people will receive their money. If this video helped you, especially if it helped you earn an extra $1,000, consider hitting that subscribe button. Helps me feed my cats, make me smile. And check out the link in my description for Webull. If you use the link, you'll receive 2 completely free stocks valued up to $1,400 once you deposit $100. And the best part is, if you don't like the service, you can keep the stocks, close the account, and cash out. Plus, you'll help out this channel, so why not? So that's all for now. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.